Endocrine disruptors are one of the biggest killers of testosterone, and in this video I'm going to explain how to detox from endocrine disruptors without losing your sanity. So, firstly, what are endocrine disruptors? Endocrine disruptors are man-made chemicals that disrupt the endocrine system, and the endocrine system is basically your hormonal system. So these are man-made chemicals that disrupt your hormonal system by mimicking and blocking certain hormones and certain receptors. So these are very, very bad for your hormonal system. The most common and most dangerous endocrine disruptors out there that are, affecting our testosterone levels are BPA, BPS, phthalates, PFAS or forever chemicals, and atrazine. These are the most, the biggest sources of contamination in our lives from endocrine disruptors. BPA or bisphenol A is found in plastic bottles, in plastic containers, and in other plastic items. So BPA is found in them things, and BPS, the same thing, found in plastic bottles, plastic items, and everything plastic basically. It's the most common plastic material made. It's the most common type of plastic found in our everyday objects and lives. So BPA and BPS, the two common types of plastics. Then we have phthalates, and phthalates is basically a chemical that makes plastic more stronger and more flexible. So an example of this would be plastic cling film to wrap food, and it's also found in non-stick iron pans. Then you have PFAS or forever chemicals, which are found in certain hygiene products like skincare, sunscreen, shampoo, and so on. So an example of a PFAS would be parabens. Then we have atrazine, and atrazine is a herbicide or pesticide which is sprayed on food to avoid pests from growing on there, such as fungus and bugs and so on. But atrazine can be beneficial in reducing pests, but it's very bad for our endocrine system because it causes so many estrogen related issues inside the body. So these are the major sources of endocrine disruptors. These five are the major sources of endocrine disruptors. And what are their effects on the body? Well, firstly, they cause infertility. And this has been proven in so many studies where they showed how BPA affects sperm motility, sperm count. So it basically causes you to become infertile. And if you want to have kids, you really need to reduce your exposure to these chemicals because it's no joke. It can actually make you infertile, and you really need to, try to minimize the exposure to this. The next thing they do is that they mimic estrogen. BPA and BPS literally act as estrogen inside your body. They activate estrogen receptors and they block androgen receptors. And this causes a host of health related issues, especially for males. And it causes you to have low testosterone, to be less masculine. So it mimics estrogen and causes there to be more estrogen inside your body. And when this happens, it causes when endocrine disruptors enter your body, such as BPA and BPS, it increases the amount of estrogen inside your body. And when this happens, your hypothalamus, which is the master gland, it interprets this as, you having too much testosterone, because in the endocrine system, testosterone becomes estrogen after it, binds with an enzyme, after it reacts with an enzyme. So when your body sees that you have too much estrogen, it will also assume that you have high testosterone because the testosterone in your body becomes estrogen, and without testosterone, you wouldn't have high estrogen. So the body interprets that as you having too much testosterone as well. So it will lower testosterone in order to reduce your estrogen, but that's not actually what's going to happen. And it will just cause you to have even more higher estrogen and low testosterone, which causes a host of health-related issues. BPA, phthalates, PFAS, atrazine, all of them mimic estrogen, increase estrogen, and bind to estrogen receptors. They block androgen receptors. So androgen receptors are one of the most important things for a male. Androgen receptors are basically what testosterone and your other androgens bind to in order to have their effect on the body. So without an androgen receptor, your testosterone, your DHT, and all of your other androgens will be effectively useless to the body because they won't be able to enter the cells and change your DNA in order for you to become more masculine, to build more muscle, and to have more strength. So without the androgen receptors, your testosterone becomes useless, which causes low testosterone issues such as low muscle mass and so on. Without the androgen receptors, you won't be able to build muscle and you'll have low strength and so many health related issues. So these also block the androgen receptors, and when all of these effects and when this happens, you have delayed onset of puberty, which basically means you don't hit puberty when you should, and it's either you don't hit it at all, you look like a premature male who cannot grow facial hair, which is crazy, and you also develop issues like gynecomastia and low facial dimorphism. And gynecomastia is basically when you get man boobs, which makes you look like a woman, and it's honestly a very unpleasant sight to look at. And I've seen this, and gynecomastia has actually been increasing in recent years. So many people, so many men are developing gynecomastia and they have to get surgery to remove it, because this goes to show how all of these endocrine disruptors have such a big effect on the body. They cause gynecomastia and low facial dimorphism. It will make you infertile and it will give you estrogen related issues. And this is no joke. It's proven in so many studies that it has these effects on the body, and we really need to reduce our exposure to these chemicals because they're killing your testosterone in real time as we speak. So you must take action and reduce exposure to this. So all in all, they cause estrogen related issues, they lower your testosterone and give you a host of health effects that you don't want. So I'm going to be honest here and tell you that completely cutting endocrine disruptors is kind of impossible because they're everywhere. They're in the air, on the sofas, in your car seats, in your fucking water, on receipts. They're everywhere. They become so common that it's impossible to avoid. I want you to really understand that my point I'm making here is that we don't want to, completely cut this off because it's kind of impossible to do that because of how common it is. Instead, you want to minimize the major sources of exposure to these chemicals. And that alone will get you 80% of the results with 20% of the effort. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain what the major sources of exposure are and how to reduce exposure to the major sources of endocrine disruptors. To begin, I want to first talk about plastic chopping boards. And this is actually one of the most overlooked sources of exposure to endocrine disruptors. Using plastic chopping boards is direct exposure to endocrine disruptors and BPA. It's because when you use a plastic chopping board and you chop food with it, small shavings of plastic and bisphenol A or bisphenol A and phthalates leach into your food, and you eat that food and you also consume the plastic with it. So plastic chopping boards are direct exposure to BPA, BPS, phthalates, and so on. These are so bad for your hormonal system and your testosterone. So you need to instead throw away your plastic chopping board and instead use a wooden chopping board. I personally have like 3 bamboo chopping boards. I bought them on Amazon for £21. It's so easy to avoid this, and just gonna pay a bit more. Just pay a bit more to get the wooden one. It's 100% worth the price. You pay once, you benefit forever. And so that's very important that you stop using plastic chopping boards because it's direct exposure to endocrine disruptors. The next thing you want to minimize is touching receipts. And there's actually been a study which showed the comparison of BPA density in certain products and items. It showed plastic bottles, plastic containers, and then it showed receipts. And when the results came, receipts was shown to be the most dense in bisphenol A. It was like 1,000 times more dense than any other plastic item that we use today. That being said, you really need to stop touching receipts because it's direct exposure. It leaches into your skin the second you touch it. When a receipt is made, heat is pressed onto the paper, and when that heat is pressed on, it's literally BPA being pressed onto it. And when that heat is pressed onto the receipt to print out the letters, that's when BPA is released onto the receipt, and when you touch it, it goes into your skin and fucks up your endocrine system. So you need to stop touching receipts, especially if you work in retail as a cashier. You need to start using email receipts, use gloves, or just don't even use receipts and work a different job. Because consistent exposure to receipts will fuck up your testosterone levels and give you gynecomastia, infertility, and all those health issues I talked about before. So you need to stop touching receipts. Use gloves, stop working a job which requires you to touch receipts all the time, and just use email receipts if you have to. So the next thing to avoid is canned food. And this is actually a surprise to everyone because people think, canned food is made of metal and so it shouldn't have any plastic in it. But that's actually not the case. Canned food has plastic lining inside of it, which is a way that, endocrine disruptors leak in, bisphenol A leaks in. So there was actually a study that showed 5 days of canned soup consumption increased urinary BPA levels by 1000%, by 10 times. How fucked is that? In a matter of 5 days. And that's just urinary BPA levels, which were measured. Imagine how much BPA was still inside the body of the person who ate canned soup for 5 days. Just imagine. You need to stop eating canned food. It's honestly, I don't know why people still eat canned food. It's so unnatural. It's been inside there for years. It doesn't even taste that good. And you can just get it by paying a bit more and, using whole, fresh, and just eating fresh food. Stop eating canned soup and start making your own soup. I don't know why people are so lazy. The reward is not worth the risk of using canned food. Stop using canned food. It's fucking up your testosterone levels. It's increasing your BPA levels by God knows how much, because this is just urinary BPA, and inside the body will be much higher. Stop eating canned food. Stop eating canned food and start eating real, fresh, whole food that's organic and hasn't been kept in a container for years. Now, the next thing you want to do is to reduce the use of plastic containers and plastic bottles, because these are major, sources of contamination. Using plastic bottles, plastic Tupperware, and plastic meal prep causes so much plastic to go inside your body, especially when you heat up the plastic, because that's when the plastic leaches into the food and into the water. So stop using plastic bottles, stop using plastic containers, and instead use metal bottles and glass meal prep. I've stopped using plastic containers. And if you are using plastic containers, you need to cut that out. You need to reduce plastics inside your kitchen and your house, because it's really messing up your testosterone. It's a major source of exposure, especially when you put food that's wrapped in plastic inside a microwave. That's when the most plastic gets inside the food. It's actually not that hard to do this. There's no excuse for this. It's simple, easy, and takes a little bit of effort to do. So the next thing is to stop drinking tap water. This is crazy to say, but tap water has been found to contain birth control inside of it. How fucked is that? Tap water, the water that people are drinking right now, contains pharmaceutical residue and birth control inside of it. And this is very bad, because when we drink that tap water, that birth control goes into our bodies, the pharmaceutical residue goes into our bodies, and it fucks up our hormones as well. So that's why you need to stop drinking tap water and stop drinking bottled water. So bottled water contains microplastics, and tap water contains estrogens and birth control. So these two are very bad as well for, trying to reduce your exposure to endocrine disruptors. You need to avoid these two, and instead the solution, I'd say, is to use a reverse osmosis water filter. And these are about 400 to 300 pounds. You can get one and install it under your sink. So these filters actually firstly remove heavy metals and plastics and all these other toxins from the water, and then they remineralize the water and make it drinkable again. So these are very beneficial in detoxing from endocrine disruptors. That's it for today, everyone, and I hope this video is helpful, and I hope you actually take action and implement these, and take action and cut out these things from your life, because they are major sources of endocrine disruptors. If you're really interested in this topic and want more testosterone boosting ideas, make sure you check out my school community, which gives you the full blueprint of how I went from 350 nanograms of testosterone to 750 nanograms in the space of a year, completely naturally. So make sure you check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.